If you fused with an alien parasite, turning you into a mutant, what would you do? Sue-In is a supermarket cashier who winds up on the receiving end of some unwanted attention from a local psycho. If only she knew how much attention she'd be receiving afterwards, though. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the Seijin Churchin Parasite the Grey. We start out following a concert in this series' prologue. A mysterious life form falls from the sky, hatching a crawling insect of some sort, which crawls its way over to an unsuspecting party guest and into his ear. The partygoer's in the VIP room, where it appears he and his group really went a little too far, which is why he was passed out to begin with. His girlfriend walks in and berates him for not taking advantage of their event, since he'd rather just spend his time drinking. Back outside, the lady then finds her boyfriend standing in the crowd. When she approaches, it becomes very quickly apparent he's no longer her boo. His head turns into alien tentacles, kind of like the Kraken in Pirates of the Caribbean, before he starts viciously slashing those around him to death. From the first victim's perspective, it doesn't look like there's all that much he could do. This parasite just body-jacked him with zero consideration. There's not much you can do about that while passed out.
You'll need to get a sticker for this one.
We cut to a supermarket checkout girl, Sue-In, being forced to deal with the nastiest of customers for the amazing rate of minimum wage. The guy comes unhinged at the thought that the meat he bought from the in-store butcher needs to be priced and labeled by the butcher. Duh, you expect them to weigh and slice the meat at the tills? She stands her ground, seeing as that is what she's supposed to do. But all it seems to do is make this guy even more mad. Later that night, Sue-In heads home from her job on a scooter, not noticing the creep following her out to the middle of nowhere. As they're well on their way, the psycho rams Sue-In off the road with his car before delivering some unhinged rambling about how nobody thinks he'd actually do it. The only thing you can realistically do in this situation is call 112, Korea's emergency number, while running. It all happens way too fast though, not to mention she was already likely injured for being rammed off her scooter.
Hey, you stupid shit!
He stabs her with a kitchen knife before she tries running away, injured. She collapses right by one of the parasites in the field, actually saving her in this case, as it decides to slice this guy clean down the middle in half, at least from the chest up. What can a person do in a situation like this? Well, if someone puts this much effort into trying to hurt you, it's honestly down to dumb luck whether you'd be able to recognize a potential threat from one interaction in the grocery store. Other than that, she might have been able to notice she was being tailed, which she could confirm by taking 4 consecutive left turns. If she did confirm she was being tailed, she could then call 112 while remaining on the scooter, but realistically, she'd still totally have been at the mercy of this psycho. If he'd noticed her pulling out a phone, it's very likely he'd just ram her to avoid a police encounter in the first place. Most people don't assume somebody's going to murder you over a price tag on meat, though, so none of that crosses Sue-In's mind. Fortunately for her, a passing by driver does call the cops after the altercation.
Hello, sir.
Cops do their best to piece the story together, but just can't make sense of it. Detective Chul Min, head of this city's violent crime department, is leading the investigation.
Pretty strange, boss. Nobody's sure if he got cut in the crash or...
Yeah, in half? How? Turns out the victim is known to the detective. Turns out she also insta-healed from the parasite infection too, leaving only scars where she got stabbed earlier. Even she doesn't understand, saying she definitely got stabbed and doesn't understand how the attacker died. We cut to a very stereotypical Korean mobster boss entering an establishment in a nice downtown area. Another main character of the show, Kang-woo, tries to sneak in and assassinate the mobster, except it doesn't go anywhere close to plan. Failing to get a swift, clean kill, Kang-woo gets slapped around like a bitch before being forced to flee.
Hey, he scared me.
He tosses his phone sometime later before making his way over to his childhood home. His older sister, Kyung-hee, greets him, but looks less than pleased with his sudden appearance. His little sister also isn't there. He finds her phone, the state of which makes him think she went missing, not gone somewhere, like Kyung-hee said. Cutting back over to Sue-In, she's trying to return to normalcy after the attack. As she's on a bus ride home, seeing as her scooter's been totaled and all, she suddenly gets deafened by a high-pitched ringing sound. Whether coincidental or not, there's some creep there giving her the death stare, almost like it's nonverbal communication of some kind. She gets understandably freaked out after her recent experience and gets off the bus. Smart move. Elsewhere, a random businessman is trying to solicit whom he thinks is a prostitute. He gets taken to one of the shadiest looking buildings ever. Somehow, he doesn't get that something's off when she refuses a hotel, yet takes him someplace like this. I get this gentleman is supposed to be wasted, but that is just straight up moronic levels of not noticing red flags. Once alone, his companion's joined by a bunch of other people. They all engage in similar, emotionless, monotonic conversation, talking about this man like he's a piece of meat. He mistakes this for a fight and squares up like he'd actually stand a chance 1-6. The reality is much worse though. They're all parasites looking to add to their pantry. The only counterplay to a situation like this is not driving yourself to a secondary location, where this cold, almost nonverbal, oddly behaving stranger wants to be alone with you at. Fortunately, just as this guy's about to be reduced to parasite chow, an armed response unit comes in to clean up house, saving him at the last second. One parasite manages to get away, figures out how they were tracked, using a captured parasite as a sort of radar to locate the others. We then get introduced to the leader of the team, Che, as she tries to take this parasite out. He still gets away though. The team examines the hideout of the parasites, finding out that they've formed a coalition of sorts, working together under an organization, as well as that they were using this place as a pantry to store their assorted human body parts for food. Cut back to Sue-In, making her way home via bus once more. She hears the ringing in her ears again, before seeing that same creep from the bus stop the night before. Judging by the staring from the night before, and that same staring now, she is in danger. She tries to stay calm, which isn't bad, but clearly does not recognize just how bad this is. She does come to this realization, but calls Chol-min for help while making eye contact with the creep without moving. It doesn't do anything to deter him, and he instead immediately sprints towards her. She runs for her life, but winds up getting herself cornered by the creep and Kyung-hee. She's understandably terrified, but this isn't an attack, it's a recruiting pitch.
You are convincing as an Earthling.
Yeah, that's weird. Who says that? Kang-woo follows his sister and sees the parasite in their true form. Sue-In also suddenly turns into a parasite. Before the others hand her a pamphlet, it's to a church, but it sounds like it's optional, so that's kinda cool, I guess. Have you heard about our Lord and Savior, Cthulhu? Is pretty much the vibe this gives off so far. As this meeting concludes, Parasite Sue-In catches Kang-woo sneaking around.
Have you seen my dog?
He gets thrown around for a bit before Parasite Sue-In delivers him some important instructions. Kang-woo was instructed to basically give Sue-In the gist of what's happening to her. It is supposed to eat brains, but because she needed healing during the attack, it had to prioritize saving Sue-In over finishing the job taking over its host.
I told her, okay?
Sue-In then basically Tom Riddles herself with her journal, like in Harry Potter, only instead of trying to communicate with the book, she's communicating with herself.
What you heard earlier is true.
She blacks out for a bit and wakes up to new writing on the page. Her parasite within basically tells her to ask any questions, which I'd wholeheartedly abuse, exactly as she kind of does here. Who are you? What do you want? Do I truly have freedom in this decision to join or abstain from Parasite Church? What's the plan long term? World domination or just refugees from another planet kind of thing?
I'll start with some info on me.
The police, meanwhile, are all invited to a special briefing on the parasite threat, conducted by the special operators from earlier, Team Grey. They go with some seriously extensive security measures before even being allowed in, and that's with guns in their faces the entire time that they're there. They stare in disbelief as Che explains the existence of parasites, doubting whether this is all legitimate, but that is about to change. Overall, Che does a good job here. She gives them concrete evidence right in their faces in the form of an autopsied parasite. Along with a concise explanation of the threat, we learn that these parasites just magically dropped all over the world simultaneously and take control of their hosts entirely by eating their brains and replacing that person, effectively. Chol-min even remembers the turning their heads into sharp blades anecdote, and clearly has some kind of doubts in his mind about his hot-dogged perp. Che tells the cops to bring them any suspicious cases, meaning it's likely only a matter of time until Soo-in's discovered. She brings out her radar parasite from earlier, and we learn that this actually used to be her husband, and that said husband ripped her ear off once he turned. Talk about getting an earful from your spouse, am I right?
At first, when I was still a larva.
Meanwhile, Soo-in is reading the entry in her diary made by her other self, which basically confirms that the parasite couldn't completely take over her brain because she was about to die to her stab wounds, instead forcing the parasite to prioritize healing over total control. This resulted in some kind of hybrid mutant type deal, where the parasite can only control her for 15 minutes a day, even explaining it's choosing to use those moments for when she is truly in danger. Basically, she's gonna put self-preservation first above all else. I'd argue that's pretty cool, considering someone did try to kill her at one point not too long ago. The parasite also leaves her a recording, so she can see her other half's true form. Except she's not too happy about this mandatory body timeshare. Can't say I would be either, but it did save her from certain death. Plus, it makes her incredibly OP now. She can even go as far as shaking down the local drug dealers in a bad neighborhood on a nightly basis now, accumulating a crap ton of wealth and retiring to a tropical island where no special task force is ever gonna come looking for you. It's like they even say in this series on several occasions, within chaos, there is opportunity. Kang-woo pawns a watch, getting roughly the equivalent of $1,100 for it in Korean won, which he uses to get his sister's phone reconnected to its mobile plan. He also goes next door to buy an old scooter for some change, except the mechanic sells him out.
Earlier this morning, I had some guys asking for you.
The clerk at the Korean Verizon store clues him in on the bad guys looking for him earlier that day. But just as he tries to leave, they show up. He gets into a fast-paced and super nauseating chase scene, shot by either a drone or a body cam at chest height, and eventually manages to get away to a nearby harbor. He starts working on getting out of town while he still can, calling his guy for a car and some cash. He's still having doubts about the weirdo parasite church thing from last night, and thinks it has something to do with his little sister having gone missing. Understandable. Speaking of the girl who received the invitation to the Jehovah's Parasites, her case from the local PD has successfully made it over to Che for inspection, meaning she's very likely to be detected sooner rather than later. Shulman must have come to a similar conclusion as he goes to visit her to do the hair test, the Grey unit mentioned earlier in the presentation. At this point in the series, it's pretty obvious Team Grey's never encountered a hybrid or mutant-style parasite yet. This makes me think that they wouldn't be very likely to work with someone like Soo-in, even if she can prove that she isn't one of them. The detective's hair test doesn't work. She's clearly not like the others, so the test can't really be conclusive here though, especially with mutants. He just writes it off as probably not a parasite and leaves instead of pursuing this lead further. Maybe the Grey unit will. What's definitely strange about this to me is that earlier when Kang-woo followed Soo-in to that meeting, those parasites did the same test on her, and it did work. Maybe it's a selective thing from the parasite within Soo-in.
The pastor is anxious to talk with you.
Later, she's walking to the bus stop when a vehicle with the other parasites pretty much tells her she has no choice but to come with them. She's taken to a weird Christian-looking church in the middle of nowhere. There, Kang-woo is also observing this gathering. Soo-in's been told that the pastor is anxious to talk to her. What? That's not creepy at all.
And one of our kin has been captured alive.
At the church, they all watch a video message from the parasites who got away from the earlier pantry shootout with Team Grey. This brings awareness to the unit's existence, but also is discussed as a threat by the pastor. Basically, this is a declaration of war. Kang-woo sneaks around the place, finding his way into a warehouse of sorts, which turns out to be another meat storage area. He's understandably freaked out when a parasite intrudes on his snooping and forces him to hide. Trying to stay out of view, he uses his sister's phone to illuminate what's below him, before coming to an awful realization. She's one of the corpses being used for food. Kang-woo can't hold back his sadness and anger, saying "fuck a stealth op, before attacking the parasite and alerting the congregation next door to his presence. Bad situation, but very bold of you to assume you could take one of these things at all, let alone so many of them.
Go kill the human using the skills we have been honing.
Goes without saying, the pastor orders his congregation to kill Kang Wu, causing him to end up running through the forest with a pack of parasites hot on his tail. The one thing he has going for himself here is that he alerted his guy on the phone earlier, which luckily brings in rival gangsters. He tries warning them, but they're only interested in killing him. A good ol' some guys with guns are about to come shooting through the woods. Might work to convince them a bit better, but other than that, not many reasons they'll believe you, which is why this happens.
Hey, old guy.
Problem here is that these gangsters don't carry guns, which means unless you get in that car and vanish, there's no way you're outrunning these things. Kang Wu takes off running and runs into Su-in, but stupidly, these two don't take the van the bad guys left there with its engines running. They instead opt to run through the woods to the nearby gas station to meet Kang Wu's guy for extraction. That works, but puts you at a significantly higher risk of getting caught.
Give me the car key!
At least he wastes zero time once there, and they immediately speed off down the road. He even makes sure that they're clear before answering his friend's questions. This is overall well taken care of. Kind of the opposite of Cecilia in The Invisible Man, when she fails to inform her sister of the impending danger and doesn't immediately GTFO. One problem. Turns out this guy was never on Kang Wu's side to begin with. He was sent to whack him, which he now tries to do. Staying on the road while fighting over control of a knife is next to impossible as is, especially when there's an even bigger threat that they should be focused on. Holy sh! These things can fly? Parasite Su-in jumps into action to help fight off Korean Parasite Batman, but Kang Wu still crashes the car due to all the factors combined making it so hard to stay in control. Kang Wu tries to make it out of the car, which is hanging off a cliff's edge, but not before his buddy here tells him his own gang also turned on him. They sold him out to avoid an all-out gang war, meaning he now has two gangs on his tail, plus the parasites. Like that's not bad enough. The buddy's rigor mortised hand just won't let go of Kang Wu, costing him even more time and energy to release the guy's grip before he falls backwards out of the car and winds up hanging from the edge of the car over the cliff. Seems to me like you could have just tried to climb into the back seat and over the back of the car instead, but whatever, dude. Netflix loves their cliffhangers, I guess. Meanwhile, Su-in, or rather the parasite within, Heidi, disposes of the church member that was about to fly away and rat her out to the pastor. Kinda dumb for such an intelligent alien species to assume she'd let you just walk away and declare her an enemy of the state like that. Batman basically gets yanked out of the air straight through the heart over his own stupidity. Kang Wu, still hanging out, gets saved by Su-in at the last second before the car plummets off the cliff with a little help of Heidi's parasite superpowers. Che, meanwhile, goes over the case files provided by Won Sok from earlier, and immediately figures out Su-in must be a parasite. So, Kang Wu now has a church of psycho parasites after him and two mobster factions, while Su-in has the church plus the Special Forces Grey Team after her. So what can they do? Well, maybe it seems counterintuitive, but I'd actually approach the police ourselves and just offer our services. The major risk in doing this is that you can't guarantee Su-in won't get domed like Che's late husband and used in a torturous way. Considering she's a mutant with free will and self-preservation above all instincts, it'd stand to reason you can demonstrate the difference between Heidi as part of Su-in and a regular parasite though. The best way to improve our odds here would be to talk to Su-in's detective contact, since he can vouch for her actual personality. That means he'd be able to prove to an extent that she's not being parasitized like the others, since she'd still be herself. Kang Wu could offer his help, since he could function as bait in exchange for protection from the two mob factions. Shouldn't be hard to keep this guy safe, since the good guys actually have guns here, and the bad guys use like bats and knives instead. That way, they've got a super parasite for the dirty work / radar function, and bait in the form of a human the church wants dead already, for when they inevitably wouldn't want to risk the only mutant currently known to exist. In the following episode, we get a flashback of Che and her husband, seeing how the parasite took him. Basically, he turned in the middle of a routine grocery trip and went on a rampage similar to the guy at the concert in the beginning of the series. He didn't even recognize his wife anymore, and that is how she wound up losing her ear. She shows some impressively quick thinking, grabbing a bottle of chemicals and baiting her former husband into the store's walk-in freezer before using the chemicals to temporarily disorient him and then tackling him. This allowed her to get out and lock him in. Heartbreaking, but this is what I mean in all those apocalypse movies when I say if you don't immediately react, you're toast.
Best thing we can do now is tell someone what we saw.
Back to our star duo. Kang-woo seems down with approaching the authorities like I mentioned. I do genuinely think this is actually the only somewhat sensible play. You need to choose a side here. Kang-woo decides to stay a bit more neutral for now though, not actually calling in the detective's help on the off chance that they'd be hunted, and instead informing him of the Seijin Church with an anonymous tip. Shulman brings it to Che, who immediately takes a team out to the church. Shulman and his team tag along as well. After some cool drone surveillance, Che's hunting dog doesn't detect any parasites in the nearby area, but she also tells Shulman that it can lie. So how about spraying him with that chemical agent you mentioned earlier to ensure that he's not? Inside the church, Shulman finds Soo-in's keys with the keychain he gifted her earlier in the series, following her return to work. He decides to hide it though, not being sure what will happen to her if he brings this to Che. Unfortunately, she sees him hiding the evidence. Back at HQ, they debrief their findings, and Mr. Simsalot, aka Won-sok, who was creeping on Che earlier as a fanboy, gets assigned to the task of determining the pastor's last known home address. Except, when we see him venturing out somewhere in the middle of nowhere, it brings us a twist. He didn't drive out there to do his job.
Goodness. You're all looking really good.
Okay, so he's working with them. He's clearly not one of them, but he is helping them. I'm guessing they must have cut a fantastic deal, since he doesn't appear to be scared of them or anything. They hand him a wooden blade, made to resemble their head tentacles, to perform an assassination on the hunting dog. Not to burst your guys' bubble or anything, but wouldn't they just procure another? I mean, there's plenty of these parasites in this town, and they do venture out and about. Hell, even Soo-in could be a perfect radar for Che, if they agree to slightly more humane working conditions. Meanwhile, Shulman has made contact with Soo-in, and they arrange to meet up in an abandoned amusement park. Problem is, Che is already suspicious of Shulman and tails him. As she's moving to his location, she also calls in backup, meaning any second this place will be swarming with gray operators. Shulman immediately doesn't trust Kang-woo upon approaching the duo, and even thinks he's the reason that Soo-in is acting so strangely. Shulman confronts her about the keychain from the church, and he comes to the realization that Kang-woo called in the tip with Soo-in. Just as Che shows up to ruin the party, Kang-woo tackles her and takes Soo-in by the hand, bolting it deeper into the park looking for an exit. The operators make it on site, just as Heidi takes over Soo-in's body and gets Kang-woo to run, while she holds back Team Gray. Kang-woo chills out by the tree line, where he sees Won-sok killing Che's ex-husband / hunting dog. Shulman, who had been KO'd, wakes up immediately and joins in on the raid. The operators cornered Soo-in and ran out her defense timer from Heidi, meaning she's now totally vulnerable. Shulman tries defending her, saying she's not like the parasites, but they don't care. What's bizarre is that these people are supposed to be experts, and yet nobody questions why this supposed parasite is the only one that actually displays any human emotion. She was scared having the shotgun pointed at her. She also didn't do anything when Shulman had Kang-woo in a chokehold, whereas any other parasite would just rip their enemies in half without hesitation. Che knows better too, but because she's now found her dead ex-husband, obviously she comes to the worst unfounded conclusions. She has Shulman restrained and makes Soo-in her new hunting dog, only in exactly the same conditions as the previous one. Man, this was exactly what they might have been able to prevent approaching Team Gray before things escalated. It looks like Che wouldn't have responded to it well either way, so maybe I was wrong.
He's nothing but a parasite.
That's not true.
Shulman doesn't receive any disciplinary action following his brawl with the operators, and actually tries to explain that Soo-in isn't a regular parasite during their team meeting with their superior officers. He completely flies off the handle because even their own tests show that Soo-in doesn't have the brain makeup of her full parasite counterparts. Not to mention, she's not devoid of emotion and totally behaves like her normal self. None of those other parasites behave anything like their old former selves.
Dong Suin could be a new type of creature.
Che even calls out that this could be something that they don't understand yet, and that their tests aren't definitive or foolproof. Right, so then why not actually do your homework on this topic and try to enlist her help? Willingly. I mean, one conversation and Che would know about the Seijin church members hunting Suin, and why. That would reveal this whole hybrid concept. She could even show Che the written messages from Heidi. If Che doesn't believe it, you could use that day's 15 minutes of parasite time to bring her out to confirm all these details, before it would relinquish control back to Suin, proving the hybrid theory immediately. For a special operations unit, and for Che having seen these beings up close in the form of her husband's parasitized anger outburst, they do so little actual investigating here when confronted with conflicting information and facts. Superior officers want to transport Suin to HQ for comprehensive testing to figure out what exactly she is, evidently not wanting to just take Che's word for it. But by this point, the trust between Team Grey and the local PD is deteriorated significantly. That is going to complicate any actions involving Suin. Chulmin, wanting to keep Suin safe from harm, is bound to want to help her, even though that is clear as day, HQ barely addresses it. This is in addition to HQ wanting to inform the general public about these things existing at all. I do see the point in this for awareness' sake, but given the operations of the parasites are still relatively small scale, and that you have another hunting dog on your side now, why not just take them out silently? You could pretty easily sweep the cities using that radar function. If you'd want to go public with this story, all you'd realistically cause is mass panic and an influx of false positives in the form of weirdos and kids prank calling the police departments with fake parasite cases. You'd also be dealing with people who wouldn't be able to differentiate between those who are just having a bad day or feel down and actual parasites that have consumed the human inside their vessel. All that's gonna accomplish is draining only your resources, while the parasites can use the cover of chaos to expand their operations. Again, this isn't quite the apocalypse level threat it would otherwise seem, yet the parasites are still trying to operate in the shadows and are, for now, relatively low in numbers. As long as it stays that way, I'd argue we're good.
A detailed study might include splitting her open, you know?
One Soak instead adds to Chulmin's conflicted feelings about what could possibly happen to Suin when they study her. He clearly has an agenda, as the parasites did initially send him in to assassinate Suin's predecessor, but I don't think he's totally wrong. It's next to certain that HQ will not be capable of utilizing Suin's abilities the way that they should. Not to mention, if you currently have no other hunting dog whatsoever, then transporting your only captive parasite to another location also means dropping your guard. Considering one of the PD guys is a rogue parasite hitman, that is a really bad move. Not that they seem to care much. I mean, they left the first one unguarded during a raid on a parasite hideout. Whatever, let's just stop there for now. I could go on all day about everything that was wrong in those last scenes. We cut to Suin in some kind of coma dream world, having a conversation with Heidi in the flesh. Suin is told she's being kept there in a comatose state on purpose by Heidi. If she'd wake up wearing that chum bucket on her head, she would apparently die from shock.
Well, I got it at the chum bucket.
I was beaten.
Now that they're here already, Heidi treats her to some free therapy, having her relive the day she called the cops on her abusive father. It's a pretty sad story, especially since she somehow got blamed by the others in the neighborhood, and her own mother didn't want anything to do with her afterwards. Her mom straight up tried to buy Suin out after this, and told her not to show up there again. Poor Suin. Her parents suck. Even Heidi, an alien parasite, tells her she's not cursed or rotten. How much must you have screwed up as parents if an alien parasite, which has a primary defining characteristic, behaves like it's void of emotion, shows your child more love than you do?
Causing some trouble in the area.
Meanwhile, Chulmin is informed that they've tracked down Kang Wu. He goes out to meet him alone, hoping to score some information on the bigger picture.
Could you take me to a different station far away?
Kang Wu gets arrested near immediately, but can't help himself talking shh, accidentally revealing to Chulmin there's a double agent working within the PD, as well as that this double agent is the one who killed their hunting dog, not a parasite. Chulmin won't have it, until Kang Wu points out Wan Soak in a picture as the culprit. This convinces him to at least extract all the information about Suin, before he convinces Kang Wu to help him break Suin out.
You're a coward, that's why. Your older sister's been turned, and you're gonna bolt. That right?
Well, Convince is maybe a stretch here, as he basically just relentlessly verbally abuses him, calling him a coward for not wanting to take down the ones who killed both his sisters. It gets the job done, and Kang Woo on his side, even if through negative reinforcement.
Negative reinforcement, that's the key.
Route 39, you said?
Won Sook, meanwhile, is doing an expert job playing the role of a gullible, weird moron. This allows him to fanboy himself closer to the operators, finding out important information about Soo-in's transfer route, which he immediately shares with the pastor. Now it's Chol-min and Kang Woo versus the parasites, essentially. See who can reach Soo-in first.
We should arrive back there in time for the guard change and go to the container.
So, what's their master plan? This is good, nerds. Bear with me. Comedy gold. Kang Woo will enter the locker room of Team Grey at the police station using an access card from Chol-min. He's going to need to take out one of the guards during the shift change, basically praying to whatever deity he worships that it will actually be one guard and take his place. That would allow Kang Woo to get in on the prisoner transfer to help Soo-in escape. Okay, where to even start with this one? The police station is swarming with cops. Needless to say, a struggle in a random locker room may very well attract attention. The one guard you're hoping to take out may call for help, also attracting attention. It may also not just be one guard, even if it's just one guard. It is a special police unit operator. Kang Woo laughs it all off when discussing it with Chol-min, saying he was in the Marines and all that. Well, if Train to Busan 2 taught me anything, it's that this doesn't necessarily mean anything good. Lastly, we see these operators carrying weapons everywhere. They're carrying inside the station as well, in full loadout. Sure, it's the locker room and all, but what made you think that they wouldn't have their guns within grabbing distance when you try to walk in? So that should have been their expectation. Reality? Kang Woo made it in with zero effort, but pretty much instantly realized this was a dumb as hell plan when he saw the ripped operator. He also realized the door locks both ways, meaning he couldn't even swipe his card to get out before being forced into a confrontation with this guy if he wanted to. He, very much as I expected, gets his butt handed to him, yet he still overpowers the operator. How, you ask? Pepper spray. Yup, that easy. Beaten. Now looking the part, Kang Woo encounters another problem. He has no idea about the unit's tactics or SOPs, much less the names and roles of his colleagues. Chol-min makes a point of mentioning that the unit's been started relatively recently, meaning people won't know each other by name or face yet. You'd think that, but I can't imagine these guys only ever work together in live situations. Near daily training is definitely the lifestyle for these types of units. Even if they don't know each other for long, it's so stupid to assume that you could just Agent 47 an operator and get away with infiltrating the most high-profile prison transfer in human history. Yet, this happens.
Wait a minute.
Do you eat dinner?
Oh, it was good, huh?
What the hell? These are the guys from earlier who guard Soo-in around the clock and monitor her vitals in shifts. Kang Woo could try to just act the part and actually verbally respond to something to this guy, but apparently this operator is just a Splinter Cell NPC. Or he's just really hungry. So much so, he's willing to brush aside several enormous red flags. I mean, come on.
I'm gonna take the remote control myself.
Che decides to hold on to the remote control for Soo-in herself, and kicks off the transfer earlier than expected, messing the plan up entirely. Yet, even she doesn't notice this guy's just behaving wildly out of character for one of her supposedly elite operators. The fact that he doesn't even verbally confirm her commands would strike me as odd. Again, if nobody knows each other here, why not just use a stern-voiced bland, "Yes, Captain." Anyway, this results in Kang Woo getting put into the container with Soo-in, as the one who has to monitor her vitals during the transfer, like the operators were doing earlier. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, when factored in that the parasites will likely try to move on this transfer too. The mole gets into Chol-min's car to ride with his partner.
Go to church, right? What church is that again? Why do you want to know? It's just hilarious, that's all.
Awkward car ride, to say the least. The convoy makes it through the city, onto Route 39 as planned. Once there, they're halted due to traffic ahead.
Seems like there's an accident.
Chase sends out a team to investigate when the parasites decide to strike. She's quick to realize they're here for Soo-in, but she decides to leave the armored truck. If you know that they're eventually going to come to you and all of this security is focused around the truck, why not stay by the mark? The parasites ram a car into the transport vehicle and kill the driver, all of which could have been prevented if Che stayed to provide security. Kang Woo leaves to get the remote from Che, who wakes and attacks him, still very much misdirecting her efforts. When the parasites throw a car at them in the middle of their brawl, Kang-woo's able to create distance and rush back into the truck with the remote. Just as Che gets cut off by another parasite, Che finally starts prioritizing the parasites that are just mowing down her entire elite unit. Chul-min, having helped the innocent civilians out of the danger zone, saves Kang-woo just as he's about to get got by a parasite. This finally allows them to free Soo-in, but not before Heidi wraps up their impromptu therapy session with more confidence building for a perfect segue into reality. Soo-in exits the Matrix, and Kang-woo guides her out of danger by carjacking a random driver. Won-sook tries shooting them, but to no avail, before pursuing them with Chul-min. Fortunately, it's basically 3-on-1 here, as they drive out into the middle of nowhere. Unfortunately, they won't get a chance to employ that advantage before he peels off the road with Chul-min in the car, towards his parasite buddies. Chul-min stupidly asks questions here, instead of immediately pulling out his piece and doming this sucker. Soo-in notices from the ringing in her ears what's going on, and rushes over with Kang-woo. Well, not necessarily with, more in front of, since he takes forever to follow her.
So what is this?
Chul-min tries to play it off cool, asking where they are, but considering he was asking extremely specific and suggestive questions earlier during the transfer, his partner just tells him to stop pretending already. That's what you tell others when you have such suspicions, within the police force I mean, and don't try to confront a guy working with alien parasites by yourself. The dude gives him a pretty straightforward bad guy speech, asking Chul-min to join the dark side, but he refuses. Soo-in makes it there sprinting, just in time to watch the man who saved her from a lifetime of abuse get brutally beheaded by the pastor. All present an alternative for this entire mess here, once again. When Won-sook starts pulling her away from the suspects that they're tailing, especially since Chul-min knows by now that his partner is dirty, he could just shoot him right there. There's nobody around to hear the shot, or otherwise be an issue when you try to cover up his death. Chul-min instead let him drive all the way down that long road to an abandoned building in the middle of nowhere, and still got out of the car when his partner told him exactly what this was. He could just as easily have switched to the driver's seat in GTFO'd. Sure, the pastor might have run him down, but at least he'd get to Soo-in without being immediately beheaded instead.
She has told me about her family.
We cut to Jin-hee, Kang-woo's little sister, in a flashback. We see that she was trying to help Kyung-hee, their older sister, with a medical condition. Kyung-hee refused a doctor and MRI, choosing prayer instead. Jin-hee, seeing the pastor backing up religious healing over medicine, got understandably agitated. Talked a bit too much for her own good. Unfortunately, she was far too late to realize her older sister was a parasite, and that there was a reason the church congregation didn't want her getting medical attention. At this point in the series, we know this is because MRIs revealed the parasites within their hosts. This led to Jin-hee getting cornered and murdered right beside her own house. Her poor doggo even tried defending her, likely paying for it with his life.
It's me. Why are you using Ginny's phone?
Kang-woo and Soo-in, back in the present, call one of his friends in another town to stay the night, seeing as how they're on the run. The problem is that his comms are being monitored.
Do you people think this event is some kind of joke?
Team Grey and the local police, including recently parasitized Chul-min, are getting an earful from the high-ranking suits that know absolutely nothing of the complexity of the situation. After a long, brain-damaging rant about how their music festival is more important than some monsters, Che is given 3 days to dismantle this parasite cell's ops. That is extremely optimistic. What I don't get is why. Especially with the general public now becoming aware of this issue rapidly, these suits don't take the situation more seriously. It's not an extinction level event yet, like I said earlier, but that doesn't mean it couldn't become one. All it takes is a few morons like these suits putting politics and profit over literal alien parasites taking over people's bodies, and there you go. Pastor Chul-min gives Kang-woo's former older sister the go to ambush them at their friend's apartment. Meanwhile, the duo arrive at said apartment and get Kang-woo's friend to bring them some cash. Kang-woo would like to GTFO and wait this out somewhere safe.
When Kiso brings the money, then let's run away to somewhere remote and hide.
Soo-in wants to inform Che instead. That Kang-woo wants to live, I can understand, but as he notices on the news, this infestation is definitely spreading. Back at the PD, Che's confronted with the decoy church the pastor created earlier. Using the pressure of the recent meeting with superior officers, they convinced Che to greenlight a raid. She's clearly uneasy about it though. She gets a call from Soo-in, trying to convince her of the moles in her team. Che tries to milk it for an in-person meeting, expecting pushback, but is surprised to learn Soo-in is fine to meet in a public place. Very out of character for a parasite, wouldn't you think? Kang-woo reunites with his childhood friend, Ki-sok, who reminds him of his phone call with Kang-woo's sister from the flashback scene. He tells Kang-woo that his sister was going to message him. Kang-woo checks the messenger app, seeing as he's using her phone, and sees a draft message warning him not to come home under any circumstances. Realizing his sister died while trying to warn him, and hearing Chulmin's verbal abuse playing on repeats in his head, he decides to go help Soo-in. Soo-in meets up with Che, who still clearly does not believe her story. She tells Che all about the undercover parasites, how their raid is set up. But of course, Che just took her team out there to try and re-helmet Soo-in. What I love about this is that she's clearly starting to doubt what she knows so far about the parasites, but still doesn't choose to collaborate normally when Soo-in pretty much offers her services. Obviously, which is exactly what happens. She's going to take off running the instant she sees that helmet. What I find just mind-blowing here is that Che never questions why someone would voluntarily return to her after being subjected to that medieval torture device. As Soo-in takes off running through the back alleys near the cafe, Kang-woo shows up just in time to save her in Ki-sok's car. Heidi, now in control due to the fact that Soo-in was in danger, tells Kang-woo she needs to recharge for 3 full hours. Ordinarily, that wouldn't be an issue, but it turns out Kyung-hee has made it to Ki-sok's for a visit.
Your sister's here waiting for you.
They strategize to give the parasites what they want, meaning Soo-in will just pretend to be Heidi, since they assume the others won't be able to tell who's currently controlling her body. To avoid them killing her, she says she'll just pretend to be returning to the congregation. I can't imagine a universe where they won't see that betrayal coming. This is super stupid. I think calling in a tip to Che about this apartment is a way better move. It shows you're still willing to play ball after her double-cross BS, and will actually lead them to a parasite hitman, probably removing most doubt about Soo-in's allegiances for good in the process. Or so I'd hope, anyway. Soo-in enters the apartment, trying to play it off like she's one of them. One small problem. They can apparently sense when Heidi's awake inside her, not only whether she's actually there or not, which means they know. Get down! Parasite tries to draw Heidi out, before Kang-woo comes in with a fire extinguisher to create a diversion.
So get out of there, hurry!
Ki-sok, his friend, sacrifices himself by tackling the parasite like a complete and total alpha. Kang-woo goes full Train to Busan too and starts losing it rather than running, before Soo-in snaps him out of it and they take off in the car. I'm gonna take a moment here to call out that in that first episode, Kang-woo is told his phone communication can be traced and to get rid of his phone. Why he didn't think that was still relevant is beyond me. Police will typically have that kind of capability, and you know of 2 people within your local PD that are working with or are parasites. If you really couldn't find any other way out of the situation than calling in Ki-sok's help, at least you should have done the right thing and made him leave town altogether the instant you had what you needed, just in case you'd be bringing the heat to him. Back at Team Grey's, they gear up for the raid. Soo-in and Kang-woo call and try one more time to convince Che, even telling her Won-sok killed her husband with a blade made to resemble a parasite tentacle.
If I'm killed, you bring this call right to General Kim Sung-soo.
She clearly does have some doubt, as she gives them a name at the National Police Agency to bring a recording of this call to, should she die in the raid. She keeps the duo on the phone the entire raid, but actually, it all goes fine. There's no trap. Because of that, she tells Soo-in that she's next.
All targets eliminated.
You heard that?
I mean, Christ, Che. Soo-in is clearly not behaving like any other parasites you've ever encountered. You're supposed to be some kind of published profiler with several degrees in this field, yet you can't determine that? What parasite would waste their own time calling you to convince you not to walk into a trap? Before you say, because Soo-in doesn't want her kin killed, just think though, why would any of the other parasites still have been there then, if they knew? Che is exhibiting an enormous failure to do her job here, which Soo-in and Kang-woo are trying to do for her at this point. Parasite Chulmin gives a press conference as the head of violent crime for Namil-gun PD. He makes it clear that the festival is going to go ahead, and also puts Soo-in and Kyung-hee's pictures up for everyone to see. That is going to make stealth so much harder now.
What was it that you found there?
Che, after the conference, also approaches Chulmin, asking what it was he took from the church back to Soo-in. the keys. But since he wasn't the one who did so, he can't remember. I get she's suspicious, but making your intention so glaringly obvious is nothing but a one-way ticket to getting deleted. As it turns out, the real master plan here is to take over the body of the mayor at the festival, and using his connections to higher and higher powers, basically body jump over and over until the parasites rule the world.
I just worry that our kids will end up just like us.
We get this confirmed in a flashback of Won Sok, showing us his wife talking down to him due to his profession and low salary, before they all air concern about their local pastor having gone missing. This pastor of the Sajin Church was on Won Sok's patrol route, so he offered to drop by. There, he discovered the pastor's wife dead, while the pastor in parasite form threatened to kill him if he didn't help with the parasite's sinister plot for world domination. In the flashback, he doesn't look as though he's in on this voluntarily, even if in the present-day version of the series, he's totally owning that helping parasites attitude, talking about moving into positions of power with Parasite Chol Min before his speech and all that.
It's me, what?
It is your sister.
With Kang Woo and Soo-in now on the run, they get a call from Kyung Hee. She drove past the new church in the last episode and noticed the pastor in Chol Min's body working against his own kind to further his status. She's obviously being targeted as well now and suggests a truce. You'd have to be absolutely insane to trust this parasite. For all you know, her picture was only put up in the first place to help trick you into meeting her. She did murder Kang Woo's best friend and both of his sisters, after all. I'm not sure what other option they have at this point, and neither do they, so they agree to meet her in a botanical garden. What? Your faces are on the news. These kinds of gardens are public places, not to mention tourist traps. It is one of the least secluded places you could have met. I guess it's good for avoiding a sneaky murder attempt, but still. Soo-in and Kyung Hee finally meet and start discussing cooperation. There's a general shared sense of disagreement here. Heidi doesn't want to help the Kyung Hee parasite at all. Kang Woo wants her dead, and even tries going for her in this public place, though his attempt is just turned into a valuable lesson on human emotions instead.
Look at this man.
It's dysfunctional all the way. I couldn't stress that more, but 3 is better than 2. Not that it'll help an overwhelming amount against hundreds of highly specialized police units, if they'd actually be there, that is.
When and where did you get it?
As it turns out, when Pastor Chol Min said he wanted to use the system against Che earlier, that's what he meant. He vetted a fake anonymous tip and sent it over to his CEO. The tip states another building now bears that same logo, meaning parasites. Except it's in the next town over, meaning Team Grey will be leaving Namelgan. So who's going to secure the festival where they can expect to see the mayor? Well, the local police, of course, headed by, you guessed it, Chol Min. Gotta hand it to the pastor. Well played. The convoy heads out, per their orders. Heidi, controlling Soo-in's body, tries one last time to convince Che to get on their side. She explains the intended target is actually the mayor, while also announcing she's going there right now with another parasite and Kang Woo to kill the pastor first.
Turn around.
That's about as obvious as it could get in a million years. And finally, Che trusts her gut and has her convoy U-turn back toward the festival. At this point, it really couldn't go any other way though. I mean, what possible reservations could you still have about Heidi/Soo-in? They have caused all of zero trouble, have just been non-stop trying to warn you, and are now basically telling you they'll do it themselves since you suck at your job. The least you can do now is provide backup. At the festival, our dream team is surveilling the site. Kang Woo is among the festival goers, keeping tabs on the mayor. The parasite squad is back in the car, as to not give away their intent with the ringing in the pastor's ears. It's all in all a really cool festival, I gotta say. But the pastor unfortunately had zero intentions to let it run its course even halfway. He goes for the mayor's security detail, right as Che and the Grey team show up for backup. Despite them hearing the shots, signaling that the danger is at the festival and not the parking lot, Che still breaks away from her team to pursue Kyung Hee and Soo-in. Soo-in tells Kyung Hee to help the mayor before delivering an embarrassing beatdown to Che, along with an about as clearly articulated warning as one could ever hope to receive.
I truly do not want to hurt you.
If Che still feels the need to pursue her after this, then, well, she's even more incompetent than I currently consider her to be. She trusted Soo-in enough to turn her whole convoy around, was proven to be right to do so, and still wants to go for Soo-in? Bro, she told you the mayor is the target, meaning if you can hear gunshots right now, the mayor is currently being attacked. God, this is so stupid. Kang Woo does Che's job for her once more, tackling Pastor Chulman to the ground with a bread rack, similarly to how Team Grey operates with their riot shields. I gotta say, it's cool to see the characters pick up these kinds of tricks through observation. Clever writing. Chulman's parasite detaches from the detective's body, seeing as it's gotten pinned now, and pursues the mayor, who's being led out of danger by the one guard that didn't die, along with Won Sok. It doesn't take long for him and the pastor to take their opportunity to strike. Just as it looks like the pastor may actually get away with this, Kyung-hee saves him at the last second, and she brought backup too. Kang Woo tackles Won Sok before he can use his service pistol on Kyung-hee. Kyung-hee wipes the floor with the pastor, but given he's currently without a body, he has some advantages over her in terms of size, speed, etc. The downside is he has a limited window of time before he has to get another body, or he will die.
So take that one.
Kyung-hee gets shot by Won Sok. She realizes this whole situation is dangerous if she can't even spot the pastor to begin with, and tells Kang Woo to get the mayor out ASAP. When he hesitates, Kyung-hee knocks over the scaffolding around her to separate them on purpose. In her final moments, the parasite formerly known as Kyung-hee shows us that they did in fact learn a lot from humans about the meaning of life, as she asks for forgiveness from Kang Woo for what she did to his sisters.
To you I ask for forgiveness.
Before her back being exposed gets her parashanked to death by the pastor. Kang Woo snaps out of his grief and runs, while Won Sok stupidly runs around looking for the pastor.
There's nobody here to swap your body. There's no one.
The pastor needing a body sooner rather than later, and probably getting fed up with this guy just being a clown overall, decides to take his body. That is why you shouldn't trust alien parasites, dude. But it's not like we're gonna miss you. Hell, even your wife resents you. Good riddance. Parasite Won Sok gives chase, as the mayor and Kang Woo try to get to the back lot, where the reinforcements are. Kang Woo goes for the hide-and-seek play again, since he apparently didn't learn from the first time that they can use the tentacles to augment their perception capabilities, which instantly gets them spotted. The mayor tries to bolt, but gets hooked by the pastor, just as Heidi saves him, again at the last second. We finally get our finale, Heidi versus the pastor. They both get some decent hits in, but it looks like from the get-go that Heidi's kicking this guy's ass all over the place. I guess he agreed, seeing as he runs the first chance he gets. Kang Woo gets the mayor to his security team outside, before running back in to help with 0 second thought. In the exhibit hall, since the festival was held at the War Museum, the pastor basically gives Heidi the whole Palpatine speech about joining the dark side. Feels like that one's really common these days, except he pivots into what I can only describe as an advert for unionization mixed with ethnic cleansing.
It is true that neither I nor the humans would accept a mutant like you. That is exactly what keeps the human organization strong.
He's literally hyping up the concept of numbers, organizing for the greater good, while also saying the mutants shouldn't be accepted in any well-functioning organization. What Heidi doesn't notice during all this is that the pastor's learned how to multiply himself, or it's some extreme ventriloquism, since he could basically keep Won Sok talking smack while his parasite form does a stealth attack.
Shoot her!
Che breaks up this weird fight, holding Heidi at gunpoint. It baffles me how stupid this is. Heidi notices the parasite pastor coming up for the sneak attack, as Won Sok's apparently standalone body tries to Palpatine Che into killing Heidi for him. Regardless of the fact that she may take a slug for her efforts, she saves Che by killing the parasite. Che notices this at the last second in the reflection of the exhibit's glass next to her, and finally targets the right person with her shotgun. As the pastor draws his final breaths, he shows us how he too learned a thing or two from humans. That was unexpected, I'll admit. Following this series of nightmarish events, Soo-in returns to a job as a grocery store clerk. She even makes a new feline friend to accompany her on her night shifts. Kang Woo drops by to take her on a walk to the harbor. There, he tells Soo-in he's now part of Team Grey, as well as that Heidi sent him a letter destined for Soo-in.
This is my first time writing a letter, so please excuse any missteps.
That doesn't make much sense, since they clearly communicated just fine via journal earlier. But okay, the letter itself is quite beautiful actually, and finally makes Soo-in feel, for the first time in a very long time, that she's not alone. Kang Woo even tells her Che has a spot for her on Team Grey if she'd ever be interested.
And you are?
My name is Shinichi.
Speaking of Che, she meets up with a local journalist who claims to be a parasite expert, offering his services. The character is Shinichi Izumi, from the animated series the Netflix live action is based on. This sets us up for Season 2, with the parasite infestation being far from over. The season ends. Of our main characters, ultimately only Che, Suin/Heidi, and Kang Woo survive. Kang Woo's family was caught off guard before they could see the parasite's plot coming. Kyung Hee, in parasite form, dies to save the mayor, a noble sacrifice. Chol-min died mostly because he couldn't recognize the clear danger his partner posed. Won-Sok died because he made a deal with the devil, totally deserved. However, beyond all of these deaths, there was one person whose efforts, or rather lack thereof, could have prevented this entire catastrophe altogether. Che. Had Che acted upon several coordinated and calculated efforts by different people to alert her of the plot to conquer the world, rather than continuously trying to put down Suin, a lot of lives could have been spared. For these reasons, I think Parasite the Grey was beaten. Moral of the story: don't open the door for Jehovah's parasites.